Can
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome.
can I watch
Special
can I watch something for half an hour?
first order of business is a discussion and possible vote, town administrator search committee discussion and charge. Joe, you're up.
All right, well, thank you, Chair, and thank you for selectmen members, select board members. Rebecca and I want to present to you very briefly here tonight, give you a quick update and ask you for a charge. So let me first start off with the updates. Last week, we formed two subcommittees, and the subcommittees, one of them is finalizing a job description, and it's done. I received a draft copy today, which I provided you, and that will be finalized and voted on this coming Thursday. Another subcommittee worked on finalizing the questions that we're going to ask the candidates, along with a scoring system. That will be finalized and voted on Thursday. The next thing I'm going to present to you, which I provided you in draft form, which I'll present to the committee, is I've put in motion an idea for a schedule as to when we're going to get our work done, because Selectman Watson had asked a very important question at the last meeting, like, how much time do you need to get this done? So I won't go into the details. I have a draft copy, and of course, modifications may be made by my committee on Thursday. But bottom line is, we plan on meeting every week until the work is done. And with that said, I'm projecting that by September 17th or September 24th, you can select a candidate. And then by October 1st, you could be finished with references and also background checks, so that you can make a formal offer by the first week of October, by October 8th. That's what I'm projecting. That's what I'm going to propose to my committee. And the committee also informally, each individual is also looking at the actual resumes. I, for example, have selected some names that I plan on promoting when we go into executive session, which in time will be shared with you as well. So the four-part charge that we ask for consists of, number one, something that's obvious that you consented to last week, and that we're going to not set a deadline for collecting resumes. We're going to continuously keep that open until the position is filled. That was your idea, and we appreciate that. So if that's in the charge, that's important. The second part of the charge is we would like for you to consider hiring a consultant. And Rebecca and I will provide you with some details about that, but we'll ask you, we'll open up more just to questions. The third item is we would like to have the power to interview, because our bylaw gives us the power to organize, which is what we did. That's your original charge, plus the power to select candidates and promote them and send them over to you. But we would like to have the option to also interview initially on your behalf. And then the fourth thing is we would like to have Rebecca have access to the digital inbox so that she can continuously look at the inbox to see what additional resumes will come in. What she'll do is literally she'll collect them physically, and then perhaps work with Catherine and provide packages for us to physically come and pick them up, so that we don't get into a problem where we are sending sensitive information, resumes, electronically, and could be mishandled. You know, when I thought about it, based on our last discussion, and then I'll have Rebecca give us a little information about the consultant. When we hire in the private sector, it's private sector. If I apply for a job, really nobody at my work knows about it. It's done behind closed doors legally. In the public sector, it's very complicated because we have a duty to protect the identity of the applicants, but we also have this enormous duty to provide public disclosure. So there's a number of reasons, and that thematically is one of the real reasons why we feel we want to have a consultant to help us finalize and refine this process so that we do it legally and completely. So other than that, we're hoping to get a charge tonight of those 4 points. Open application until filled, hire a consultant, power to interview. Rebecca has access to the digital inbox. And then other than that, I'll open it up to questions regarding the consultant that the committee voted on last week for your consideration to hire.
Anybody got any questions for Joe? Jason,
No.
Bill,
No, pretty straightforward to me.
Dan,
Costs.
Cost,
I'm sorry.
it's okay, no worries. You missed just a little bit. By the way, I'm glad you mentioned cost.
Hello,
When I presented last week.
hello, excuse me, point of order.
This is available, this was the Collins Center at UMass.
They
They do provide a lot of self-help resources. And one of the things that has a price tag on it is a $350 per person for a background check. And Chair Watson reminded us that we would only engage in that process at the very end with the very finalists, because for obvious reasons.
So I see it here. Is that a flat rate fee? Is it?
Yeah, so this is 6,000. So the Collins Center will do a complete package for $8,000 to $12,000. So we're not presenting that to you. We're presenting this company here for $6,000. To answer your question.
Excuse me, point of order. Mr. Chairman, do you know that I'm in the meeting?
I can't hear it.
She was just asking if you knew that she was here.
Oh,
Because you're
What?
not doing roll call, that's all. Making sure.
no,
Kathy, do you have a question for Joe?
No, I do not. I just did not really think that you knew that I was in the meeting because you're not doing anything by roll call and attendance and all. That's all. I just want to double check. Thank you.
We did present the information, the firm profile, and then Rebecca had received an email, which we have copies for you, where the owner of the firm summarized what they do.
go ahead, Dan.
So I anticipate there'll be multiple rounds of interviews and we screen the process, so. Take care of the first round, your board, your committee, and with this consultant, that's the way we go, and then. We get 3 or 5 or 1 applicant, board of selectmen, all this, I don't want to do them, speak for myself. Obviously, why.
Well, you bring up a good point.
So how would that work? Is that all just price, and that's the end of it, or this is just working with your committee and helping you with the kind of the roadmap of this? Or are they gonna be involved in, hand holding along the way
This is for the whole process.
until we hire? Until that ink is dry on that contract. If we have questions, they're gonna be available. So it's a flat rate fee, whether it involves 20 hours or 120 hours.
And then to cut down on the cost, they are going to be participating remotely. So through remote meetings, instead of paying for any of their travel time and things of that nature.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example on the schedule that I'm proposing. After we vote for everything on July 9th, by August 5th, we're hoping to interview this company if it is the pleasure of the board to hire them, to retain them for us. But we're not waiting. We're doing the job description this week. We're doing the questions this week. We're doing the scoring system this week. Now, when the consultant comes in, to your point, Dan, he may refine the questions. He may refine the scoring, but we're not waiting. In other words, I've already looked at the resumes and I already have names that I want to promote. And every member of the committee is probably doing that. So within a couple of weeks, we're having executive sessions with the consultant going into the blood curdling details and moving forward, because you came in a few minutes late. I have a goal that by September 17th, September 24th, you guys are ready to hire someone. By September 17th, September 24th, I have a proposed schedule, which I hope to get approval this Thursday night from my committee. And we're going to work every week until we get somebody in the chair. We don't want to drag this out to November, December. We can't.
Mr. Chair, I'm just curious as to, I mean, it makes sense that if somebody knows the ropes and it's such an important task, first time around, If we make a mistake, it could be a disaster, so.
Yeah. You reminded me of that.
Yeah, I just, I like to be positive, but, hope for the best, plan for the worst, and let's try to avoid that. So, do we have the money in the budget? And, was that anticipated? And do we have, do transfers a year? What are the mechanical logistics of the funding?
Don't have the answer to that. Yeah. Jason, go ahead.
The finance board would have the option of pulling it from the reserve funds, which I believe was already discussed to some level.
The
And there
town's
may-
reserve fund is it?
Yes, and there may be other funds available through what is already set aside for the town administrator, which is not being used. So there will be funds available.
Because we have a delay and somewhat of a time gap.
But nobody's sitting in the seat right
funding, we're not making that salary this week,
Yes,
so we could use some of that money.
potentially.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, it's part of the job hiring
Have it on the
process.
budget from July 1st, you haven't used it.
Yeah, if we don't hire until
Yeah.
September, then there's a month's pay there to play with, so,
It should.
all right, I just asked you,
Should be plenty to cover
All right.
6 grand, I would think.
Yeah.
No.
no, I agree. It's just for my own knowledge and people listening.
Kathy, you have any further questions?
No, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't just approve the request before us tonight. They make the most sense to get this position filled as soon as possible, and it's the critical position. We know that as long as this position is unfilled, things are slipping through the crack. So let's do it. Let's get it done. So do we need motions or what?
As loud as it goes.
I can hear you.
She said it was, she would like to get it going as soon as possible.
Right. Do you want a motion then? Do you need a motion for each request or a motion overall?
She's asking if you would like a motion to accept his request or a motion overall.
Yeah, we'll do a motion in a second and then I got a question for you. You want to make the motion, Kathy?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. I believe we had four requests before us.
Like, give
Joe, correct me if I get this wrong.
the TA committee's charge as described
Oh, Bill's doing it.
with the following power to interview candidates, align consultants, accept applicants with a deadline, and grant access to Rebecca Oben with the inbox to collect and distribute resumes and package envelopes labeled with committee members.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay.
second. You should be doing
Over the.
roll call.
You have something?
She just was suggesting that maybe you should do roll call since she's in,
It has to be a roll call. We have somebody remotely.
yes.
Joe, reading over the profile, this firm will assist in background checks. It is, according to their what they have written down here. Will they also do query checks to the didn't say that?
I don't know. Rebecca, would you have any idea?
I would imagine so, but I can't say with 100% certainty.
That'd be important.
When you hire them, you're gonna ask some questions, or did you want us to screen them after you hire? Or before? In other words, you've got the first string,
Why
so,
don't you ask them that question?
yeah, we'll ask some questions. I think I know, we know what we want from the consultant, so we're gonna be looking out for your interest.
Can I make a suggestion? I mean,
Yes.
just a talking point here. I don't know that you need to do a full-blown, background check on somebody if they're just preliminary. I think when we narrow it down to say 3 or 5, you can let them know that if you're one of the, final,
Be one of the finalists, will do an FBI background check.
yeah, we'll get the fingerprint file out and we'll, and then we'll screen at that point. But I don't know that you need to do that on a first interview or a
And
second.
I
So-
will say, one of the good things about this consulting firm is that they have intimate knowledge of these players in general, having helped other communities through these processes and having worked with them in the field and understanding what a town manager and administrator do. So I think that's an added bonus to have them have that background knowledge of these individuals prior to as well.
In terms of,
Follow up?
Yeah, follow up in terms of this, your access to the resumes in that inbox. I mean, I think it's obvious that it's in confidence, but would you share that with your committee, or was there any leak in that box? I mean, it just for your eyes only, and that's the end of it? No, can we clarify that?
My understanding is that I will look at the inbox where these resumes are being sent. I will print them for the members of the committee. I will put them in individual envelopes with the committee member's name, and I will have them in my office to give them physically to each committee member.
How is it that the committee will discuss those resumes? Is that an executive session amongst that committee members? And it's just that there's no leaks. It has to be a closed, tight-lipped committee. We've got some exposure.
I believe that is what the chair had envisioned at the next meeting when we do go in to discuss specific candidates, yes.
Oh, that's the understanding. I don't have that.
Jason, you had something else?
No, I just wanted to comment on the query checks. Typically, that's done after we make the offer.
Yeah.
Because the offer, you accept it, and then it's going to be
Contingent
pending on the
upon.
query check. So
Yeah.
The chair mentioned last week, something that I didn't know, that when you do a background check, that can provide information to an employer. So we would only think about doing this with the final candidates.
And I would think we would need a release and
Yeah.
approval to do that,
And we'll ask the consultant about that.
I just, I've done background checks, say, as a landlord. And I get an authorization so that they know the ramifications of if you're running a credit, you pull in their license, verifying that you don't know necessarily. Well, maybe you don't have a background check. So I think we need when we get to that juncture, get an authorization that we can do that background check, obviously. I mean, I think it's.
And, I look at, Dan mentioned a good thing about, he's done background checks on tenants. On something like this, same thing with somebody, a prospective tenant. You never ask the former employer, or you never ask the former landlord, because you want to get the true story. So you skip the last one and you go back further, because you know how it is in municipal government. They take their problem child, they give them a good recommendation, and they throw them out the door and they push them on somebody else. So you never ask the former employee or the present employer, just like you never ask the present landlord, because they may want to get rid of them. You go back further. So just that's the point.
Well, that's great guidance. I appreciate it.
They want to get rid of the tenant.
Kathy, do you have anything else?
No, I thought we had a motion and a second already on the floor.
Right, we're in discussion. Do you have anything else?
No, I think it's been fully discussed. Are we ready to vote? Let's call the vote.
Kathy, excuse me for talking, but I mean, come on, if it's not fully discussed, it's not.
I know, I
Okay,
spend this.
Motion on the floor in a second.
Yeah, you don't need to interrupt me. Let's be polite.
I can't hear you.
nothing good.
We'll do a roll call vote. Kathy,
Yes,
Jason,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you.
One more request from Rebecca and I. Can you call the consultant tomorrow so you guys hire them next week? So that their first session with us, according to my schedule, will be August 5th. You're gonna have to hire them. We can't.
So would I be able to get a proposal and provide it to the chairman if the Board of Selectmen would authorize him to initiate the proposal? Would that be fair?
I think that'd be perfect,
I think that'll work for me.
especially since we already voted it to
Yeah, I
go
don't
move
think we
forward.
need a vote on that.
And time is of the essence.
I got a question on your memorandum here on the time.
Yes, sure. Fire away. Again, it's not approved by my committee, but go ahead. Yeah.
Number 8,
Mhm.
select board interview 2 finalist candidates in open session. I'd like to see 3 or 4 rather than just 2, but that's my opinion.
That's fine.
I'll ask my fellow board members what their wishes are, but I'd like to see more than just two, but I don't think we need any more than four. 3 to 4. Dan, you have something?
On a chance that you had, say, 5 outstanding candidates and it was so close, it was like a horse race, and it was, a photo finish. I'd like to see all qualified candidates.
Okay.
But I mean, there's gonna be some obvious discards, I would think. I anticipate, there's people that take a stab at it, and there's other people that are rock solid serious. So I defer to your committee's discretion. If you had 6 outstanding people, I'm okay with looking at 6. I don't know that we need, an artificial quota. Okay, I don't think we're gonna get 6 people. Okay, but I really don't know. This is the first round for me. I don't know. I don't know if there's 6 qualified candidates out there looking for this job. But, I'd hate to say, if there's, more than 2 outstanding people that we didn't get to look for. So that's my 2 cents. Mr. Chair.
Kathy, you have anything?
Yes, you said that the paperwork says two candidates would be finalists. Is that the recommendation of the consulting firm, or is that just because 2 finalists were
That's
chosen?
Kathy, that's a draft proposal that I put together, which I still have to present to the committee and vote on and finalize. When it is finalized on Thursday, then I'll send it to you as to what
Oh.
the committee, because we're on an accelerated pace,
Yes,
which is what you want us to be. I'm presenting things, we're sharing things as a committee, informational purposes only. We're not debating or, breaking open meeting law. But like Thursday, this is gonna be a discussion item. We're gonna finalize the schedule, we're gonna finalize the job description, we're gonna finalize the scoring, finalize the questions. So that'll all happen this coming Thursday.
okay, so here, this is my thought on this, and it's just a thought, that as a member of the Board of Selectmen, it seems like anytime we've come down to just 2 finalists, something happens and only one is left standing. And this has happened in my first term on the Board of Selectmen, and then in my term when we selected the fire chief. I, for whatever reason, feel like if there were at least 3, and you could give us the committee's rankings on those 3, I would be glad to get that information. But it seems like when there's only 2, somehow there's leaks or something, and one of them figures out they're not going to get the job and they drop out before their name gets released, because the finalist names will be released. So their employers will know.
At least 3, and then.
Yes,
There's more, add more, but at least give you the 3. Would that be fair?
yes, I would prefer that, and it's just based on my experience, that it seems like the first time we hired a finance director, we had 2 finalists, 1 dropped out, we had 1 left. We went to hire our first fire chief, we had 2 finalists, 1 dropped out, we had 1 left. So I'd like to have a choice. That's all.
Rebecca and I will convey that to the committee and stress that minimum of 3 to 4, and we're not gonna be shy if we get 5 or 6. We won't be shy about it.
Won't come in with-
Great, thank you, that's my
won't come
thought.
in with
No,
20.
we won't come in with 20. You guys will be working 7 days a week. That'll be your tough call. You show up with 4 or 5, that's a tough call for you. Especially like you said, 4 of them have their nose on the finish line. It could happen if we're lucky.
Bill, you got anything else?
No, other than, firm believer of hiring the right people to do the right job and then staying out of their way, letting them accomplish it until they prove otherwise. And I think we've got the right people at the right job. I trust them to bring forward the candidates, the correct candidates. So whatever they choose, 2, 3, 4, I'm good with, because I trust the people on the committee to do the right thing.
Okay, I don't think that needs a vote. You bring it up to your committee anyway. Is that it? that you had, Joe?
So we're clear on contacting the consultant, how that's gonna happen. So proposal.
Me, yes, I will get a formal proposal and I will contact Chairman Watson and ask if he can come in and sign the proposal and initiate work.
Okay, great. We do have a theme on our committee. No rush, immediate is good enough. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Um,
Thanks.
You might be able to get that done tomorrow,
10 o'clock will be fine.
morning or afternoon.
Morning.
Best of luck, guys.
Bye, Jim.
Um,
Bye, Rebecca.
Next on the agenda is a treasurer collector position. Kathy, I know you want to speak on that.
Yes, just briefly, Dan and I have spoken. I reached out because we did not seem to be getting even a small amount of resumes. We were getting almost none. So I reached out to the Collins Center where I have a contact and showed her the advertisement. And her feedback was that, and she provided me with 4 other advertisements to support her feedback, that our salary is low. It's low compared to what's out there right now. We know that treasurers are hard to find, and there's much higher salaries being offered right now. So her advice was to consider, well, first she suggested that we highlight the fact that there's only a half day on Friday, but then she went a little bit further and said, would you be interested in someone who was maybe going into partial retirement, or someone who maybe retired and then decided they didn't want to be totally retired. And Dan and I spoke about that and felt that, you know, if it was a fully certified, highly qualified treasurer, that could work for the town versus the current situation where we are paying a very expensive consultant fee. So if you know Dan's language, Dan called it running on 2 rails. And so I drafted a second advertisement. I don't know yet if we've had any feedback on it, but we wanted to just get the information to the board at this meeting. I know it's a special meeting, but so that everybody would understand the how and the why, and maybe start to think about it in terms of, would we want to consolidate this into one advertisement? Right now, we're able to put the new ad up on the Collector Treasurers Association website free of charge, because our Assistant Treasurer, Michelle, is a member. So she listed several other websites that we might be able to gain access to as well. Dan mentioned maybe going to Indeed.com, spreading the net a little wider. And the last suggestion was to reach out to financial people that we know in the municipal field and ask them via this advertisement, if they know of somebody, to please forward it to them. So try a little bit of networking, which I think we could do as well. I don't know if he's still there, but one of our former finance directors was the town administrator in Rowley there, Tom Moses. I know there's a new town administrator in Boxford who used to work for the mayor in Newburyport. He might be open, and he might know of people that are looking for work in that area. So we're just trying to spread the net wider and get some more interest. We have looked at the applications so far. We've discussed them. I think we're going to talk to maybe one of the applicants. I'm not positive of that at the moment, but we wanted to get if anybody has a real problem or concern with going the route of reducing the hours in order to get a highly qualified treasurer. In other words, fully certified. That was our question to the board.
Okay, anybody else? Dan?
In a discussion, you know, I think it was budgeted 1,000. So I think Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong on anything, but I think you spoke with the person at the Collins Center there, and to reiterate, 75,000 wasn't adequate for a full-time treasurer in the Commonwealth of Mass, at least in this northeast part of the state. So my thinking is, if that's all we have to spend in this budget, I'd rather have somebody say, 30 hours a week and pay them a higher rate and get somebody more qualified, or even 25 hours if somehow we could get the job done. Pay them an hourly that's commensurate with their experience. I'd rather have somebody that's experienced than somebody green or that maybe was assistant and trying to move on. I prefer people that have been there, done that, so we're not tutoring anyone. So that's why I suggested to Kathy, maybe we should run on 2 tracks or get a second line in the water, but we need a permission slip from the Board of Selectmen to approve a second advertisement, because that wasn't discussed at the other meeting. Don't want to send mixed messages, but, it could come across that way if they read both ads, for someone full-time, but they could, it is what it is. Full-time or, a certain number of hours, 20 hours or more, 20 to 40 hours a week. So I think if we tweak it, maybe we'll get some bites. Maybe we get somebody that's semi-retired, or maybe somebody that just doesn't want to fight the grind going in Boston or fighting 128 traffic. You never know what you get. It's worth a shot. We also need a permission slip if we were going to post on some boards. I think we're on Mass Municipal, whatever it is, the postings, right? Where is it posted, Kathy, right now?
The ad for the full-time position is at the Mass Municipal and on, of course, the town website. The ad for where we suggested that commensurate with experience, the hours could be reduced, could be less than 40. That is on the Collector Treasurer Association website. And as I said, I think with probably before our next meeting, I could take a run at consolidating the 2 ads into one package to attract either or, My concern is that Michelle is learning by leaps and bounds. And I believe she's going to the treasurer school in August, which is fantastic. So I don't want to bring somebody in that Michelle has to train. You know what I mean? That wouldn't make sense. And some of the resumes we got for the full-time position, it looked like that would be the case. So I don't think that would be good for the town or Michelle to create that kind of a disparity in salary where she's earning much less, and yet she's telling her boss where everything is and how to find it.
Yeah, go ahead.
One other point, Kathy, that Kathy brought up in our discussion, that this wouldn't be a remote position. Is that correct? I
Correct.
I agree with you.
Yes.
I want someone in the building.
Right. We want.
Plus, we have another
yeah.
outbreak and there's another, shutdown by the governor. This person's going to go to work every day.
Right. We need them in person in the building. The idea would be that, the consultant we have is in office 1 day per week. And it's very helpful and it's getting some stuff done. But if we can get somebody in there at least 3.5 days a week, that would probably be exactly what we need to make this work, along with hiring a town administrator.
Bill, you got anything?
Yeah, Dan and Kathy, I imagine you've explored this to the nth degree. This is your best suggestion at this time? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I haven't done the salary research and, I defer to the Collins Center. I don't know them, but I heard of them. And if they know that 75,000 is not feasible, then, it's, what I'm saying? It's like bringing in a ball player or some max contract and you offer them the mid-cap exception. So is that what we're dealing with? We'll make a sports analogy. So if we only have 75 grand to spend, let's spend it on a role player that come in and get the necessary functions done. And if we have to carve off some of the admin work or the things that can be carved off, then maybe we can work with it. But if the reality is we need to budget 90 grand for the job, then that's next year. I don't know what else to tell you, but to advertise a full-time position for 75 grand and we're told it's kind of dead on arrival, words in anyone's mouth, but that was the gist of it. I think we got a lead balloon. So is that the best we can come up with? I think we run on 2 tracks. We're fishing, I'm fishing. Being straight with you. Okay, but if we say 25 to 40 hours a week commensurate with experience or negotiable, let's see if we get somebody that wants to work 25 to 30 hours a week, and maybe we could get a bit of a strike price to get the job done. Somebody with experience might come in and just say, there's no problem. This is a little town and I come from a big city and this is a money job. I don't know. So to answer your question, it's the best I can do. Best suggestion I got is to modify the ad or run a second ad. I'm okay with modifying.
I think that's the bigger net.
Yes. And I'm open to other suggestions if that's not the way to go.
No, it's a good guy. I track the unemployment record very closely. I mean, here in Massachusetts, you're only doing 6.1%, which is not a lot. So there is some difficulties with labor shortages and everything. We've got to cast a bigger net.
We'll pay the premium. What field isn't up right now?
None. Right now, we're paying, we're upping wages, stealing Peter from all because we have no choice. We don't, even in the private sector, we put a job up, but we're not getting any resumes.
We have inflation and we have some people due to the pandemic that have retired earlier, or they're,
They're
have
taking
some health
themselves out of the
issues.
labor market, you're right.
So the labor market shrunk and the demand is increased.
Absolutely.
There's your formula for inflation right there. Supply and demand. So we're stuck. And don't get me wrong, I hate spending more money. But if nobody shows up, nobody shows up.
Sometimes you have no choice.
Jason, you got anything with this?
No, I think it sounds great.
All right. Kathy, you got anything else?
No, I think that Dan explained it really very well. And just to his point that like the hourly rate for a highly qualified treasurer in other postings is upwards of $45 an hour. And that kind of salary at 40 hours, we don't have that money. So Dan's suggestion or good point that I felt that made sense to me is pay them what they're worth per hour, make it worth their while, and let's find a person who would want that kind of a job, as long as their hours are being valued at the appropriate amount. Paying them what they're worth per hour.
Go ahead,
If
Jennifer.
it comes out to 27 hours, it is what it is.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the hourly rate and the number of hours, the math works out that we're not far exceeding what we plan to spend on it. I mean,
I'm gonna overspend the 75, or if the going rate's 45 to 50 bucks an hour, we're not gonna offer 60 or 70. It's gotta be market. As I think Jason said last time, it's like ordering lobsters,
right, but if you bring down the hours,
It's per market rates. We bring down the hours to hit the market.
right,
If the going rate is X for a plumber, you gotta pay the plumber.
right.
This is no different.
But I'm saying if we have to pay $100 an hour, make it easy, right?
If that's the
Then
market rate.
we gotta try to limit the number of hours to say, 20 hours.
Yeah.
So you're only spending $2,000 a week on that position. There's a round numbers. Just
75,000, who's got the calculator? What is that? 1,200 a week or something?
Yeah, it was 75
About 38 an hour.
divided by
Yeah.
52. And then what, 30 hours?
So we got 1,200 a week. It's 11 and
It's
change, right?
1442.
All right, 1442. Say it's 50 bucks an hour to keep the math easy. What is that divided by 50 bucks?
28.
So we got 28 to 29 hours. Can we get the job done for that? It's more than we have right now, staff, right, with the consultant.
Right, I guess to Dan's point too, the thing we discussed is, I believe the consultant rate is somewhere around roughly what, $130 an hour. And then she has associates that we billed at a lower rate, but we're paying those kind of rates, $130, $80 an hour, maybe for the associates. I don't have her contract in front of me. So this would be a savings to the town to get us out of the higher price consultant, which I understand why they have to charge those rates. They have their overhead and everything else. So if we could get somebody on board and keep it the annual salary under the 75,000 by letting them work a flexible schedule, that's a win-win. Town wins because we're not paying $130 an hour anymore. We're not creating a deficit. And the person who takes the job is paid the wages that they're entitled to based on their experience and training.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to approve the,
I'll make a motion to approve consolidating the two different ads into one ad in an attempt to get more resumes for the treasurer collector.
motion, is there a second?
I'll second it with a friendly amendment.
Okay, motion and a second, what's your friendly amendment?
Kathy and I have some discretion and latitude on the language based upon what we just talked about. It's gonna be,
I'll accept that friendly amendment.
you know, it's just, whether it be 20 to 40 hours or flexible hours. I mean, I think we should leave the price out for 75,000. I don't think you give a static figure at all. You just say commensurate with experience.
Okay,
25 to 40 hours.
the motion and a second. Any further discussion, Kathy? Anything?
No further discussion. Thank you.
I couldn't hear you.
No further
No, she's all
discussion.
set.
Okay, anybody else? Bill?
Yeah, is this gonna be a fully benefit eligible, even if it's under 30 hours a week and ends up being under?
I think it has to be over 19.
Yes,
Law.
it's better.
You
Yes.
go to 19 in 1 minute and it's cha-ching. Right?
So right now, that consultant that we're paying 130, there's no benefits.
Correct. So we gotta factor that.
You have the fact that it's gonna be fully burdened,
It's not apples to apples.
correct? So not only the wages, the hourly salary, you gotta factor in the healthcare, vacation,
Yep.
pension, everything else. So
Yeah,
it's fully burdened.
well,
So it's apples to apples. So
that's a
we
great
know where
point.
we're going.
Can we get some cost on that? So if we get to that juncture, well, I mean, not interviewing yet, but if we're gonna offer somebody anything, it's a package. They say they wanna work 28 hours, I'll take the 75 grand. It's like, okay. You're only gonna work 28 divided by 40, then what do we do with split the benefits the same ratio? We pick up, you know,
I don't imagine you could.
we pick up 12% and we strike that. We pick up 28% and 28 40ths and you pick up the rest. I don't know what the law allows us on that, but it seems like it's only a part-time job or less than a full-time job. The town's contribution should be diminished, but are we allowed to do that?
I don't think per the handbook you can. I mean, once, you know, the benefits are what the benefits are.
Well, then there's a trade-off. So if the going rate's $48 an hour, then you know what? You get full benefits and we give you 35.
He was trying to call me. Can you
Sure.
handle that?
That's my only concern.
I
We
agree
don't
with
end
you.
up spending
I agree with you.
150 fully burdened. We could do it for 130.
To make it a ludicrous point, we don't want to hire somebody for 19 hours in 1 minute and give them full benefits. To take it to the illogical extreme. Point taken. We'll just make sure that when it comes to the offer time and what they want commensurate with experience is if you get the full benefits package, you're gonna give something on the other end.
Okay, moving on, Jason?
Yeah, I think it's really a moot point. I mean, the position's a full-time position that's designed with benefits and everything. So as long as we stay within that 75, it is what it is.
One more comment. I mean, to that extent, it might be an easier sale. As a devil's advocate flip side of the coin, it might be, hey, don't go anywhere else. We get the sweet of pie. Yeah, it only comes with 75,000 for 30 hours. We would squeeze, or 32, we get 4 days out of it. But you get full bennies. We got a sweet of pie, and maybe that's dead on budgeted for. And maybe that's the best scenario. Get somebody in here for 32 hours, shit, 75 grand. They don't get the 90, they give up the 15, but they're only working a 4-day week. There's a trade-off. You know what I'm saying?
As long as at the end of the day, it doesn't cost us more than it's costing us.
I'm cognizant of that. I'm aware of it. I'm good.
Okay,
I think Kathy is too. We'll work on it.
Any further comment? We're ready for a vote. We have a motion and we have a second. Roll call vote. Dan,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes,
Kathy,
Yes,
and myself, yes. Okay, thank you. Moving on. We will roll call into executive session.
Mr. Chairman,
Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21A, number 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation to conduct collective bargaining sessions for the highway union contract, and also assistant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21A, number 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation to conduct collective bargaining sessions for the water and sewer union contract. We need to roll call into executive session. Kathy?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to leave the meeting. I'm not in a setting where I can guarantee you, that nothing would ever be overheard. I'm in a, vacation setting. So I'm going to exit the meeting at this juncture and catch up with you guys on Monday night. So thank you. Okay, I'm leaving the meeting.
She can't, she can't be sure that the executive session won't be overheard, so she's leaving the session.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Jason,
yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
myself, yes. 4 in favor, 1 absent. We'll be in executive session as soon as Catherine is ready.